Perfect. So should be okay there. Okay, welcome along to the class today. Just a couple of minutes early, just tuning in just to make sure everything's working okay there. So my name is Shane. I've brought a lot of these videos to you, so great to be back today. So this is a series, Staying Well While Staying Home, a collaboration between Siel, Bleu Ireland and the Irish Cancer Society. So just bringing you these home workout videos. So all we want is just have yourself a good sturdy chair. Recommend just keep sipping on the water throughout, have a bottle of water at the ready. And if you have any weights, if you don't have weights, tins, bottles of water, anything at all, just give you a little bit of weight. So we'll just give it one more minute, just let everyone tune in. And any comments, issues, you can just let us know in the comments there. The format of the workout will be a mix of aerobic and strength work. So essentially the first part, we'll just get ourselves up, active and moving with a couple of movements, and then we'll move more specifically into some weighted work. I will lead the session, the majority of it in a standing position, but you can adapt and perform any of the movements seated if you prefer. Equally, I always say, appreciate everyone's at a different stage in terms of where we're at with exercise. So if this is all something new, you can just kind of dip in and out, pick as much of the workout as you're comfortable, and then maybe return to it later in the day. Otherwise, you can kind of stick with me and we'll go through the full session. So I just check in on our time and I think we're good to go. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get straight into a warm-up. What I'll do is I'll leave this warm-up in a seated position just to make sure it's accessible to everyone. So, first of all, very simple, light movements. I'm sitting nice and upright in my chair. I'm just going to begin very simply with a shrug of the shoulders, up and down. So just generally an area of tightness, stiffness, shoulders, around the neck, maybe upper back. So we're just getting a little bit of movement just to begin. Now, from there, I'm just going to separate the movement, just lifting the right shoulder and then just lifting the left shoulder. So we'll just go one at a time, just to get as much movement as comfortable, lifting one side at a time. Okay. And then from there, I'm just going to bring hands to my shoulders and begin raising one elbow up at a time. So again, I might think about my chest, shoulders with some of these next couple of movements. I'm going to progress this and now start lifting my two elbows together. And really just this first phase of warm-up, the idea is just to start bringing our heart rate up, loosening out all the joints and just preparing for some of the movements. If we're going to work shoulders, chest, areas like that, we want to make sure the areas are warmed up to begin with. Keeping my elbows elevated, I now open the right elbow and then open the left elbow. So just one at a time. I think it'd be nice to just ease in with one part of the movement first. And then if that feels okay, I'll open the two elbows now. So again, just opening out from my chest and getting nice movement in my shoulders as well. And just continuing on and back down. Now, just to keep my right hand roughly on the shoulder. Don't be too strict if you're not fully touching the shoulder. And just to lead that elbow around in circles again, just with the purpose of movement from your shoulder. And then from there, I'll just change direction again, leading with my elbow, just getting nice circles from my shoulder. Getting as much movement as comfortable. And then I'll rest down, swap sides, left hand to my shoulder. And again, I'll lead circles with my elbow. So again, just opening out, drawing circles with that elbow. And then change direction, back the opposite way. And again, just with the purpose of movement from your shoulder. And back down. Next, what I'll do is, just to bring the hands up at about chest level. And just to begin lightly pushing forward out from my chest. So I'm thinking about a chest moving in the circuit. So I just want to make sure my chest is switched on, just connected. I'm just pushing straight out from my chest, straight out in front. Okay. And from there, if I keep the arms out, just slowly open to the side and back in front. Just open to the side, back in front. And again, opening out that chest. Maybe feeling a nice squeeze between the shoulders, just slowly opening out that position and continuing on. And down, perfect. Next, if I just bring the arms out, hands up, and just begin lightly rowing back, just pulling back and connecting with the back of my body. So I'm just tucking those elbows in and getting a nice squeeze. So I'm just switching on all these major parts of the body, shoulders, chest, back, and just slowly moving down. Excellent. Now, just to place 2 hands on my right leg and just gently stretch down. So hands just glide along the leg down towards the feet. Not too strict on physically reaching the feet, but just go as far as is comfortable. And just lightly stretching down that right leg. And then I'll do the same to the left. So placing my hands on the leg and just lightly stretching down. Just getting a little bit of movement here. And again, just nice slide down the leg. 2 hands, just glide down. Okay, just sitting back more comfortably into your chair. Just to march it out. And again, this is something that's really important that we do take the time to warm up. We will push and work quite hard in the session. So it is important I take a little bit of time to gradually bring my heart rate up, loosen all my joints out, and just prepare for some of the main movements. Just making sure all these different parts of my body, shoulders, hips, legs, chest, that they all feel ready, prepared before we start to perform more difficult movements, adding weight and load to the movements. So next, just opening my right leg out to the side. Just opening out from the hip. Just think a small step out to the side and back in. And then to go for the same action with your left leg. Just slowly opening out to the side. Just think of opening or stepping out to the side with that left leg. And then if I return back to a nice light march, just keeping those feet nice and soft. Just not to stamp the legs down. Just keeping it all nice and soft. We have quite a little bit of hip work in today's session, so this movement pattern important, just lifting the knees. And next, extending the legs out one at a time, just switching on the thighs of our legs here. Just extending out, one leg at a time. And then I'm just going to go into a nice slow march this time, really lifting the knees up. Just connecting with the hips. As I say, they are a big part of today's session. So just getting a feel for that movement of lifting the knees up nice and high. I'm going to start off pointing the toes up and then pointing the toes down. So just to go up and down. Apologies if it glitched a little bit there. We'll have that little bit of interference sometimes with YouTube. So just up and down. And then slowly around in a circle. So now moving into a full ankle circle. And I'm keeping this movement slow. I can even support the knee here if that helps. And then change direction. Slowly around in circles. And switch. Left knee is up. Lift the toes up. Point the toes down. So just a swap between those 2 positions. Toes up and down. Up and down. And from there into a full circle. So leading around in a circle. Getting as much movement as comfortable from that ankle. And then to reverse and change direction. Even again, just lightly holding on to that knee if that's helpful. Just to hold that position. And down. Perfect. Now, we're going to get straight into some of our aerobic work. So this is where we just keep our body moving. Working the heart, working the lungs. If you prefer, you can do this movement in a seated position, but I will lead it in a standing position. The movements can be very easily mimicked and adapted to a seated position. So I'm just going to set my clock. And let's say just have your bottle of water nearby. And if in standing, I would recommend just to have your chair alongside you, just in case, in terms of balance and that, just that you have that little bit of support alongside you. So I'm going to set our timer now. 3 movements that will be broken up with marching as well. So if we just start marching out, and then we will move into our first position. In terms of the march, I want you to set a pace that's comfortable, i.e. not so hard that it's really tough and uncomfortable, but not so easy that you don't notice you're active, just that you feel yourself moving and active. Okay, so into your first movement. Kick heel behind and curl the arms. So just curling the arms and kicking one heel behind. If you find this in any way uncomfortable, you could take the arms out of the movement and just focus on those heel kicks behind, curling the leg. Or you could just focus on curling the arms if in a seated position. So whether we're seated or standing, we're active and moving. So think of the challenge here. I want equivalent to maybe a brisk walk, being on a bike, being on a treadmill. That's the kind of intensity we look for, just that we notice we're active and moving. So curling the arms, curling one leg at a time. And we just keep going, another couple of seconds on the clock. And then return back to march. Okay, so if I find the pace of that was okay, just continue on at a nice moderate pace with your march. If that was quite tough, slow the pace of your march right down, catch your breath, and prepare for the next movement. So it's just constant movement. We never stop. We're always moving in this portion of the work. Okay. Next movement, raising my right arm, left knee. So chairs here if I need. So how that looks. Just raising the arm and knee from the opposite sides. Okay. So right arm, left knee. If you find this is in any way unbalanced, uncomfortable, just going to hold on to that chair alongside you, and that will help. If you're in a seated position, the movement is exactly the same. You're just raising your right arm and left knee at the same time. Just remember to get a good lift of that left knee. So that's going to connect with my hip, keeping my upper body strong in this position as well. So a little bit of balance and coordination here as well. And just a nice light flow to the movement. I just keep it constant, always moving. And then again, just return back to a march. Just kind of recess in between. So we're going to work from the opposite side shortly. But each movement is broken up with marching. And that just gives you a chance to recover, but ultimately keeping the flow moving as well, providing everything feels comfortable. So now from the opposite side, so my chair is here if I need, left arm and right knee. So how that looks, just raise, left arm, right knee. Again, my upper body stays nice and strong. And I'm just lifting the opposite sides, left arm, right knee. If I feel unbalanced, I hold on to my chair for support. If I prefer, I can perform the movement seated, raising the arm, lifting the knee from the opposite sides. We can always adapt, change, make these movements your own, simply taking the arm out, or maybe just focusing on the arm, or just focusing on the knee lift. You can always adapt, change, make these movements comfortable and work for you. But there is a little bit of intensity in this part of the session. We're active, we're moving, we feel our body getting a good challenge. As I return back to my march. Okay, so that's your first round finished. And then we will go again. So again, they are the movements, nothing will change. It's just a case of repeating those same actions. So again, if anything felt uncomfortable there, we know now to adapt. If everything felt okay, we will just continue as was. So heel kicks with arm curl. Okay, just continue on. Heel kicks, arm curl. And again, I just keep a nice light flow. It's not that I need to go really fast, but I don't need to go too slow either. I just go at a nice moderate pace. I feel I'm active. I can feel a little challenge in the body. Here maybe a slight little pant as I talk. It's an indicator I'm working, but I'm never completely breathless. I'm not unable to talk. You might have a light sweat. You might feel a little bit red in the face, but you'll never be pumping sweat or in any way really uncomfortable. That's important. There's no pain with any movement, just that you feel yourself active and getting a good challenge. And then return back to march. Again, the march is here. If you're finding the pace is a little bit tough, the march is here to slow it right down. You can even just really limit the movement of the arms. Take it back to a walking pace if you need. So again, this is all about you. It's not about matching me. Exact. Go at a pace that's comfortable for you. Okay, next movement. Right arm, left knee. Chair is here for support. So again, just providing I'm feeling comfortable. I should feel strong and balanced. If not, I'd change the movement. I'd hold on to the chair. Maybe take the arm out of the movement. Always change, adapt, make the movement work for you. Seated, the movement is exactly the same. Opposite arm and knee lift. Again, go at a pace that's comfortable. I'm going at a nice moderate pace that I feel a good challenge. You can go a little bit slower if you need. Breathing all the time. Just never holding your breath through a movement. Final couple of seconds. And return back to march. Okay? And again, I'm just going to line up my chair to my sides, just in case I felt I needed it in terms of balance. So again, marching out, catching your breath in between. Again, staying to that pace that's comfortable to you. And finally setting up for that opposite side again. Left arm, right knee. So how that looks, left arm, right knee. Again, if I feel in any way unbalanced, I'm going to hold on to my chair. Or I can take parts out. I could take the arm out of the movement, or you can turn this into a fully seated position, performing the same movement from a seated position. And just continuing, raising the arm, lifting the knee. Again, if you feel at any point you need to take a little bit of a break, that's fine. Grab your drink of water, just take a sip, take a seat, and joining in when you feel ready. So there's no pressure at all. Really important. Just going to grab my timer as we continue on with that movement and back to march. Okay, just want to make sure my timer is okay. So you're back to your march and setting my chair back up. So 1/3 final round of those movements. Just to repeat those same actions 1/3 final time, broken up with a march each time as well. And again, just take a little sip of water. Doesn't matter if you're a couple of seconds late into the movement. So again, back to the start. Heel kicks with arm curl. Elbows by side. Curl the arms and just lightly kick a leg behind. Curling my leg. Maybe a couple from the side, just to make sure we're comfortable. Really, I don't need to overthink the movements too much. The main thing is I'm active, I'm moving, and I feel a little bit of challenge. So that's why I say if you were to think of an equivalent, think if you were out for a really brisk walk, maybe on an exercise bike, treadmill, it's the kind of effort level intensity we expect. So you notice that you're active, you're getting a good challenge, but you're not in any way in any pain or discomfort. A couple of seconds, just connecting with the arms, curling the leg back. And return back to march, just our last two movements. A little sip of water. Okay, again, chairs alongside you here. And next it'll be the opposite arm and leg movements. Okay, so let's set up for that. I'm going to work the right arm and the left knee together. So right arm, left knee, how that looks. Just begin raising. Right arm, left knee. So just think opposite arm and leg. Again, chair is here for support. Seated position, the movement is exactly the same. And again, I'll just show a couple from the sides. Just want to keep a nice, strong upper body position, just so that I'm not kind of folding or bending as I lift the knee up. I like to keep a nice, strong upper body position. Just returning to the camera side. Just raise arm and knee. Again, slow the pace down if you need. Yes, there's a challenge. You can hear a little maybe pant in my voice, but I can still talk. I'm still comfortable enough in that sense. I'm not completely breathless or unable to talk as I return to my march. Again, so one final movement, and that will be our aerobic block of the session finished. So really brilliant work so far. Again, just having your chair alongside you here for a little bit of support. And we will begin to set up now. So now, left arm, right knee, lifting. So let's begin. That position, arm and knee from the opposite side. So opposite arm and leg active. Again, chair here for balance. And even though overall I would describe this block of work as aerobic, there is other benefits. I'm getting movement of the shoulder, movement from the hip, and think balance and coordination as well. Particularly if I am performing this in a standing position without that support. Relying on my standing left leg to keep me stable and balanced in this position. And that coordination of the opposite sides, raising here. So let's continue on. Last couple of seconds. Breathing all the time. And rest, okay? So just take it back to a nice light march. Just slow the pace down. Catch your breath, and we're going to move into our standing work now. But I just want to take a couple of seconds just to slow it down after that intense block of work. Just slow it down right back to a walking pace. Hold on to the chair if you want. And maybe just lightly sip on some water. So just giving ourselves maybe a minute's rest here. Just kind of active recovery. I'm still lightly moving, but barely. I'm barely lifting the feet here. Just keeping myself active and then ready to push into our strength block of work. Okay, so just going to set up our clock. Just continue to rest. Take nice big deep breaths. Inhale through the nose. Nice slow exhale out the mouth. Drink of water. And then we will go into our start. So 5 movements, 5 exercises. All the movements today are with pretty much weight bearing, so body weight and using weights as well. So now we'll grab hold of our dumbbells or weights. Every movement I will lead in standing, but you can also perform them in a seated position. We work on the clock for about 60 seconds, so about a minute per exercise. And then we have about 20 seconds just to set up. Sometimes it might be a couple of seconds, but in and around 25 seconds. So there's no panic or rush to set up into the next movement. Okay, so movement number 1 will be a knee or a hip flex. So I just want to show you how this movement looks before we set up the clock, the time, or anything like that. And just to show how you can adapt this. So I'm just going to push the camera down just ever so slightly that you see the feet a little bit better. So how this movement will look, I'm going to hold my 2 weights. The idea is that I will lift my right knee and my left foot will go back and then forward. So there's 2 parts to the movement. Your left leg just takes a step forward and back, which allows you to then lift the right knee. If that seems like something that will be uncomfortable, you drop the weights. You have your chair alongside you, and you perform that same movement from a supported position. So I could do it with the support of my chair, without the weight. Finally, if you just don't like that movement pattern still, you can take hold of your 2 weights, sitting a little bit forward in the chair, nice and comfortable, and lifting your knee. So just focusing on a big drive of the knee if in a seated position. Okay. So I'm going to put the clock on and I'm going to lead from standing. So I'm going to take that chair out of my way. But again, have it alongside you if you feel you need it for support and balance. Okay. So let's get that clock on. First movement, holding weights by my side. So my shoulders are active. I step forward with my left foot and drive the right knee. Then I step back with my left foot and then forward again. So think of my left side. All that happens with my left foot is that it steps back and forward. And the right side, all that happens is a lift of the knee. So you'll see I'm starting kind of slow, just getting a feel for the movement. And then as I go along, I can get into more of a flow. There's a couple of parts here. Yes, thinking of a little bit of balance, making sure I feel strong and balanced in this position. I'm connecting with my hip as I lift that right knee up. And I also have that added endurance of weight, holding weight through each side. So the arm, shoulder, bearing weight on each side. And as I feel more comfortable, I can go with a nice flow on this movement. Never needing to go too fast that we feel unbalanced. Now, just reset. We have time to rest. So I'm just going to lightly walk the position out, take a couple of seconds. And now we will set up from the opposite side. Okay, so the same setup. Bear in mind, one side might feel more comfortable than the other. But again, I'm holding my weights. Now it'll be my left knee that drives. So right foot steps forward, left knee lifts. Right foot back, right foot forward, left knee lifts. So the right side of my body, the foot just goes forward and back. And the left side, knee just lifts. That's its only task. So my right side, it just steps forward and back. And my left side, I just drive the knee. I keep my upper body nice and straight. And I'm bearing those two weights on either side. Again, if you feel uncomfortable, unbalanced, I want you to drop the weights and hold on to the side of your chair as you perform this same movement. If it's just not something comfortable to you and standing at all, from a seated position, just focus on lifting that knee up. So working your hip with a big lift of the knee. Again, start slow, kind of cautious, get a feel for the movement, and then going with nice intensity if that feels okay. And rest, okay? So that's your first two movements. We're moving into a chest movement next. So again, I'm going to keep holding my two weights. This is performed standing or seated in exactly the same way. Just if seated, sit right back into your chair, give yourself a bit of support. What I want to do is the palms of my hands are faced up, grasping the weights, merge them together. So physically bring the two weights together and you'll see that V shape I have created. So I'm not perfectly flat, I create a V shape. My elbows nice and wide and I push out from chest, straight out from my chest. This is just an adaptation. I've come across this in some of the groups where we've difficulty with a regular press from the chest. So I find this position can be really helpful because your elbows are comfortable. You're keeping the weights in line with your chest. And I know that can be an area of difficulty sometimes. So pressing the weight straight out from chest. So think of a straight line out from my chest. Press, slowly return. Nice smooth press, slowly return. Breathe out as I press, inhale as I return. If I'm seated, the movement is the same. Just sitting down and focus on that exact same motion. And rest down. Excellent. Next movement, I want to drop one of the weights. Okay, and this movement can be performed without weight. Now, this will be a combination of two movements, an upright row and a sit to stand. If you feel more competent with a squat, that's fine, but I will lead this as a sit to stand. If you are not comfortable performing a squat or a sit to stand, you can focus on the upper part of this movement, i.e. just focusing on the upright row. How it looks. Feet hip width apart. Knees are always nice and soft. My chest is up, holding the weight between my legs. I'll stand up nice and tall and lift the weight up to about chest height, raising my elbows at the same time. I lower the weight down, sit back to the chair. So a little bit going on with this movement. So that's why I'm just leading it as a sit to stand today. And what I think is next week, we might lead it as a full squat. But just for today, let's get a feel, see how this movement is. Normal squat or sit to stand, functioning that I want to keep my knees in line with my toes. My body is nice and straight, so I'm not bending the body at all. And now we have the added dimension of just raising the weight up to about chest height. I like not to push it any higher than that. Just to roughly chest height will be more than enough. And making sure I allow the elbows to raise. And we'll get one more rep. And rest. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to take my second dumbbell back for one final movement. So just remember, there's no pressure with any of these movements. This is round one. We'll perform a second and a third. So just get a feel for all these movements, see how they are, and then we know we can adapt and change them as we go along. So, side or a lateral raise. I hold the weights by my side. It's nice and upright, just that we're not rounded forward. Nice and straight. I lift the weights out. And I lower back down. So the weights will not go above about shoulder height. And I have a little bit of control, just so that I'm not swinging the weight out. I can get a little bit of a pause at the top of the movement and then slowly back down. So raise out and pause, slowly back down. And we just continue on like that. Again, those weights not needing to go above shoulder level. Even if you're not quite perfectly in line with the shoulders, that's okay. Just do work with your shoulder. If you feel it necessary, you can drop one arm at a time. And equally, this movement can be performed in a seated position. Just if you find your back is arching a little bit, I would recommend sitting down in that case. Just lifting out and raise. And rest, okay? So I'll let the weights down. Take a drink of water. And we'll take a little rest. So what I would say at this point, that's your first round of the circuit. Just check with yourself, did everything feel okay? Was there any movement that caused pain? If it caused pain, just immediately leave that exercise out. Don't persist. If you need to change, adapt. Now you know what all the movements are. So if you think I didn't like a certain part of it, I'm going to change it a little bit or maybe do it seated this time. If everything felt okay, we'll just get straight into it. And again, just at a nice intensity that I feel I'm active and working. I feel certain muscles active, but I'm not in any pain. So back to movement number one, which I will set up. So again, I want to take hold of my two weights. Don't worry, there's no panic to start here. We have a bit of time to set up. So again, quite a dynamic movement. Start slow with this one and just build it up. Holding the two weights in by my side. My left foot will step forward and back, and my right leg, the knee will lift. So think of it that way. So in 3, 2, 1, we'll begin. I step forward with left foot, drive the right knee, and then just step back with left foot. And I'll start that slow, just to get the movement. If you find this in any way a little bit awkward, break it down. Think your left foot steps forward and back, right leg, knee lifts. That's all each side does. Left foot back and then forward, and my right knee lifts. That's its only job. I'm holding those two weights by my side. A little endurance through the shoulders here. So if you do find some of the shoulder movements difficult, even just this act of holding the weight, really good. Connecting with my hip. A little bit of balance as well here. So I should feel strong and balanced as I perform this movement, not in any way uncomfortable. If I did, I would drop the weights and hold on to the side of my chair as I perform my knee lift with a step forward and back. Final lifts and rest. Okay, so I'm moving into the seconds. Now it'll be leading or lifting my left knee with my right foot going forward and back. Okay, a couple of seconds rest, so there's no hurry. So again, mindful that one side might feel a little bit stronger than the other. Holding your weights by your side, right foot goes forward, lift the left knee, and then right foot goes back. So my right foot just goes back and then forward which enables me to then lift that left knee up. So again, right foot goes forward and back. Left knee just goes up. And if I can get that knee up to a good height, but never so high that you feel you're losing balance. Maybe what starts quite kind of slow and cautious is the movement. Now I go with a little bit more intensity. I feel I have the movement locked in. I'm comfortable. I feel strong and balanced. So I'm just going at a nice intensity now. So there's that little weight shift backwards and then forward and driving that knee, connecting with my hip. All the while bearing those two weights on either side. Just continuing on. And back, okay? So next movement, even rest the weights down briefly between them if you need. I'm just holding on to them. Back to the chest. So again, this is that press, and this adaptation, because I find typically people have had difficulty in some of the classes I've been in with a regular chest press, and it's an area that can sometimes cause pain. So, no, thanks, Mary. That's great. Thanks a lot, Mary. So again, palms of the hands are faced up, holding the weights. Just bring them together into that nice V shape. Okay. And that just, you'll see how it just enables my elbows to be out. I'll just reset the clock so we're not rushing. Okay, so again, weights together, V shape, and up at chest height. So from there, we'll just begin pressing out. Straight out from chest and back in. Straight out, back in. So just by holding the weights in that V shape pattern, I can keep them in line with chest. And what we don't want when we're pushing from our chest is that we start to drop the weights down and taking the tension off. In terms of the return, I'm not going too tight. I'm still an inch or two from my chest as the weights come back. Just a nice smooth press, slowly back. Press, slowly back. I like to exhale as I press the weights away. Inhale as I return. And just by having this position of the two weights together, I find it more comfortable to keep that weight in line with my chest. Final couple of seconds. And back down. So just let one weight down. And I'm going back to my sit to stand. Again, I've no problem if you're very comfortable and really like squatting, just to turn this into a full squat. But just because there's a lot going on, I'm just leading it as a sit to stand today. But I will lead it as a squat next week. So my setup. Feet are hip width apart. Nice and strong. Chest is out. Weight in two hands between my legs, between my two legs here. So I'll stand up nice and tall, pull the weight up to about chest height, and back down. Now you'll see my knees are staying in line with my toes. Even though I'm on a front angle, I'm keeping my back straight, so I'm never bending. And I also have that added challenge today of pulling that weight up. Again, the weight doesn't need to go any higher than chest level. And just making sure that I allow my elbows to raise, that I can get comfortably into that position. Pressing my feet into the ground. Trying not to lean excessively. I'm putting as much work through the legs as I can. And then pulling the weight up. Again, just go at a pace that's comfortable. And not to go too fast on this one. There's a lot going on. And down. I'm going to take my second weight and we'll do our lateral or side raise for the shoulders next. Okay, so taking our two weights. Okay, so a couple of seconds rest, so don't need to rush straight in. Just going to make sure I'm nice and strong position, just so we're not caved forward at all. Holding the weights, lift out to about shoulder height and back down. And again, a good indication that I have a little bit of control is that I can get a little pause at the top. Now I know this is round 2, and as you go along, you might start to lose some of that power. That's okay. I'm going to natural. We're just on the first couple of reps. I do have that bit of control that I'm not swinging the weight. And if you find that your back is kind of arching a little bit, that might be an indication that it's just getting a little bit too heavy. And that might be a cue just to drop it back to one arm and just kind of bring the movement right back under control. Otherwise, I can also just continue from a seated position. Exhale as I raise. Inhale as I lower. Final couple of reps. And back down. So rest the weights down. That's your second round finished. Again, let's take a little bit of a breather. It is important as well. Working quite hard, quite dynamic movements. There's a couple of things going on in some of those movements. It's not just a case of just working one part to the body. So take a nice little breather. A couple of seconds rest. So really good work. Okay, we're going to do 1/3 final round. Just things to watch out for. What maybe started quite comfortable and easy by round 2 or 3, maybe you start to notice something's getting a little bit tougher. So do just be mindful of that. If everything feels okay, continue on as you are. But if you find the pace is a little bit tough, simple little things like doing every second rep with me, just slowing the pace down a bit. But otherwise, continue on. And again, anything that causes pain, do just adapt, change the exercise. Okay, so I'm going to put the timer on again. There's no hurry. We have plenty of time to set up. Just going to move my chair out of the way and grab my 2 weights. Okay. So again, this is my knee raise. So first thing, holding the 2 weights by my side. What I'm going to think of is stepping forward and back with my left foot and then driving the right knee. Okay, so let's start off. I step forward with left foot, drive the right knee, and then step back with my left foot. And just go really slow. If you found this one in any way a little bit tricky, but in one sense, that's what I like about this movement. There's a bit to think about, a little bit of coordination, kind of working the brain a little bit on this one, just to get that movement pattern. But again, if you find it difficult, break it down. The right side, its only job, driving the knee, big lift of the knee, connecting with my hip. The left side of my body just steps back and then forward. And that's what enables me to drive that knee up. Holding the 2 weights by my side. So thinking of your arm and shoulder active on each side, just bearing that weight. Again, balance, coordination, hip, shoulder. There's lots of different parts. And you might feel something a little bit more than the other. That's okay. Now, compared to when I started, going at a nice intensity now. We'll get 1 more. And then rest. Okay, so take a couple of seconds. And we'll set up from the opposite side then. Okay, so again, just continuing to hold the 2 weights. If you're comfortable, rest them down if you need. Now it'll be driving my left knee up, stepping back and forward with the right leg. So how that looks. Step forward with right foot, drive the left knee, step back on right foot, step forward, left knee up. So again, it's the stepping backwards and then forwards with my right foot that comfortably enables me to drive that left knee up with a little bit of intensity and power. Again, I maybe start slow and then I get into the flow of the movement. I always feel strong and balanced. I do slow it down if you feel unbalanced or holding on to the side of your chair. My upper body stays straight just so that I'm not bending into the movement. So I'm keeping a nice, strong, upright position. I think if you are carrying bags, for example, you wouldn't want to be bending over, holding. You want to be nice and strong, holding in that position. And again, final reps. And back down. Excellent. Okay, so third movement, back to the chest. And just as I was explaining in the last one, as I said, I know people can typically find that movement difficult and the weight just starts to drop. So that's why I adapt and perform it this way. So again, the palms of my hands are faced up. Merge the two weights together, a V shape, just at about chest height. I'm going to let those elbows flare out a little. I don't want to be tight, rigid. I'm in a nice, comfortable position. I then push the weights forward and back in. So the two weights are connected. My elbows aren't too tight or rigid in this position. And I can think of a straight line out from my chest. Smooth press, slowly back. Exhale as I press. Inhale as I return. Again, my body stays strong. If you find your back is maybe arching a little bit, that would be a cue maybe to just sit down for this one and just keep that back supported. Think of the main kind of focus here is press, but nice and smooth, and slow return. So the weight doesn't need to come too tight to chest, and it's a nice smooth press every time. And back down. Okay, so I let one weight down, and back to our sit stand with upright row. So again, setting up. Sit nice and comfortable in your chair, feet about hip width apart, maybe even slightly wider with this movement. Chest is out, so just so I'm not bending at all, I'm nice upright position, holding the weight with my two hands. I'll stand up, pull the weight up to chest height, and then back down. Again, I'm keeping my knees in line with the toes, so they're never kind of caving inwards at all here. Always staying roughly in line with toes. So I feel work through the thighs of my legs as I press my feet into the ground. My upper body, that's why I say to keep the chest out, just that I'm not bending at all. I'm in a nice, strong position as I bring the weight up. I allow the elbows to raise, and that's what helps me bring the weight to that chest height. Again, I'm not too strict. I don't want that weight to go any higher. I don't want it up to the chin. I'm just always going to stop at about chest height. Again, big, strong, powerful movements with two major parts. So again, there's no rush. You just reset every time. And back down. Okay. Final movement, grabbing the two weights. So lateral or side raise. Again, if you feel you need to do it from a seated position, that's fine. Otherwise, we just finish out in standing. So holding the two weights, again, just bring those shoulders slightly back, just that I'm nice and upright, never kind of hunched forward. Begin. Lift the weight out, about shoulder height, back down. Again, I know this is the third and final round, but just cautious that you're not aimlessly swinging, so that you're not swinging and using loads of momentum. And get a little bit of separation with each rep. I can get a brief little pause at the top, slowly lower the weights down. If you feel you're losing power, you're ending up using a lot of momentum, you're kind of swinging, just drop it to one arm, and that should bring the weight and the movement back under control. I like to exhale as I raise, inhale as I lower. Final couple of reps. Again, might find your shoulders feeling a little bit tired. You might get 2 to finish. And 1 more. And back down. So let's let those weights down. Okay, absolutely brilliant work there. So we did a lot of work. 3 rounds. Take a breather. I'm just kind of talking out. But that's a lot of good hard work. Think of all the aerobic work we did at the start, and then 3 rounds of your circuit. So we covered our hips, we did balance, coordination, chest, shoulders, a lot of different body parts. So really good work. All that we want to do now is just to cool ourselves down. There's a lot of tough work there. So it is important now that we just bring that heart rate gradually down and just signal to our body that we can start to rest now. So a couple of stretches. I'll lead the first couple maybe in a standing position, and then I'll lead a couple from seated as well, maybe for lower body. So very simple first. I'm just going to get a little rotation, hands together. Just slowly turn to the right. I'm kind of trying not to turn my hips too much here. And stay for a couple of seconds. And then slowly turning to the left. And again, I'll just hold for a couple of seconds. I'm going to do that twice more. Over to the right. Just hold for a couple of seconds. And then over to the left. And again, I can lead this in a seated position if I prefer. And again, once more over to the right. Hold for a couple of seconds. And then over to the left. And again, we'll just hold for a couple of seconds here. And back down. Excellent. Next, what I will do is just with the shoulders. So sit forward if you are in your chair. And just bring the hands together behind your body. So hands together. And just lightly pull back. And that's a nice stretch of the shoulders. And with any stretch, I just don't want it to be too intense. So if you felt you're shaking and bending forward, that's probably a little bit too intense. So just relax it a little bit. Keep hands together, arms pulled back, and I'm stretching out shoulders in this position. And then I'll just relax down. Again, keeping those hands together. And again, just lightly pull back, hold position. And I'll stay here for a couple of seconds. Arms straight, pull back from the shoulders, holding your position. Even if you find it tough to bring hands together, just lightly pull those arms back as far as comfortable. And back in. Excellent. Next, just going to open out our chest. So how this looks, arms by side, pull back. So I feel a nice squeeze between the shoulders, and I'm just opening out my chest. Just holding that position. And back down. And then again, reset. Arms by side. Back. My chest naturally rises out, and I pull back. Holding that position. Nice squeeze between the shoulders. So I'm going to maintain this position. And back down. Okay. Next, just to get a nice little squeeze of the shoulder blades. And again, I might open up the chest a little bit. If I bring the arms straight in front, hands up, I pull those hands right back in towards my shoulders. That I end up in a position where my elbows are back and I'm getting a nice squeeze between my shoulder blades. Again, I'm going to hold this position and then relax the arms forward. So you can see I'm stretched out. Pull back, so the hands come back in towards my shoulders, elbows pull back, chest rises out, and I'm getting a nice squeeze in between my shoulder blades here. So I can imagine I can almost hold a pen between them here in that position. And I just stay holding as I am. And then relax out. Okay, so I'll just do one more standing stretch and then I'll finish out and seated. So there's no problem if you find this is a stretch you don't like, but I think a really nice stretch to do in standing if that's comfortable. My chair here, I curl my right leg back. If I feel comfortable, I go ahead and grab the foot. If I don't feel comfortable, you don't grab the foot. From there, whether holding the foot or not, lightly pull the leg back. So staying in position, the purpose is stretching out that thigh, the front of the leg here, which we would have worked on today, thinking of our squat in particular, our sit to stand in particular. We're working that thigh and a big, strong, powerful muscle. So I'm just stretching out, holding my position. If you feel unbalanced or awkward, as I say, just not to hold on to the foot and just lightly pull the leg back instead. And back down. Opposite side. I now curl my left leg back. If I feel strong and comfortable, I grab the foot. If you don't want to grab the foot, that's fine. Just again to lightly pull the leg back, whether holding or not. Stretching out the front, the thigh of your leg, holding that position. And again, that's why my chair is here, just to keep me strong, supported in this position. And back down. Okay. And I'll just finish out in seated just to make sure to get lower limb stretch. If that was a movement you didn't really like the look of. So I'll just sit right back into my chair. Lift the right knee, holding on, and just lightly raise that knee up towards chest. So think of knee towards chest as opposed to bending. So connecting with my hip, my glute, lower back feels good. From there, I'm going to raise the toes up to the ceiling, hold that position. And then I point the toes down to the floor. So quite a dynamic stretch, adding a couple of parts in here. Again, lift the toes up. And then point the toes down. And rest. Opposite side, just reset. Make sure you feel comfortable. Left knee up, holding on. Lightly raise that knee towards chest. So again, I think of my lower back, my glute, my hip might feel these areas in a good way. And then I point the toes up to the ceiling. Sorry if that's a little blocked. And then point the toes down to the floor. And again, I point toes up to the ceiling. And then point toes down to the floor. And rest. Just to finish out, a little bit of light breathing, just if you still feel not fully relaxed from the stretching. So big inhale through the nose. Nice slow exhale. And in. And let's do 2 or 3 more. And we'll get another one. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Any questions, any issues, let me know after. Hopefully you found that okay. Again, we like to set the level nice and high, hopefully lots of challenge. But if you do find any elements tough, you can always strip it back. Don't be afraid to break the workout up. Maybe just doing an aerobic block of work, coming back for your strength block a little bit later. Even if it's a case of doing 1-2 rounds of the circuit and then building up over time. So there's no pressure. But again, thanks very much for tuning in. I'll be back next Wednesday at the same time. And have a great week, everyone. Thanks very much for tuning in. And thanks a lot, Mary. Really appreciate the comments. Thanks very much. And have a great week.